And we are back with Joe's Nose NBA episode 4 with another episode here for you guys. Looking forward to our new segments that we got today. I'm Giacomo Pirelli, joined here by Avery Stetz, Zay Lou, and Izzy Metal. We got another great episode for you guys today. We're going to be talking about some team stocks, whether we're buying or selling, how we think the future and current state of these teams are. And then we got a little wheel spinning action at the end of the episode to, round us off, talk about some different teams. So the way that this is going to work, we're each going to pick a couple teams. We've each been designated a division, and we're going to talk about some of the teams in the division. We're taking it as a stock. So we're going to take their current state and for the future of these teams. So Avery's going to talk first about his division and what he sees in a couple of teams.
All right. First off the bat, I'm 1,000% buying in on the Denver Nuggets stock. I mean, they are clearly, besides the Celtics this year, the best team in the NBA. They have arguably the best player in the NBA with the Denver Nuggets, and other than the Thunder and the Timberwolves, I don't see anybody else out of the Northwest of the NBA. But they do have one problem: is they're not the most explosive offense, but once they get it going, they can just really put it down on teams, and we saw that again. We saw that against the against the Clippers the other night, against the Spurs, not very much against the Rockets, but Jokic is just having himself a ball. Like he just yawns and he just goes out there and just drops 30, and he doesn't even care. And they, looking into the future, they're arguably like the next dynasty. Following what some people consider Golden State. Like they've set the bar again, and they're going to continue to set the bar in the future. Even the Kings last year, their first playoff wins since 2006, and they have a superior guard, De'Aaron Fox, fastest player in the game, and young core, and their defense little shaky right now, but in the future with Sabonis and Fox running the floor and just arguably just outrunning teams, and I don't think anybody in the Pacific Division in the next couple of years is going to be at a higher price than the Sacramento Kings.
Zillow, I'm going to throw it over to you. I believe that we all agree on pretty much all of that. Nuggets, obviously, younger. They have that younger team, obviously Jokic leading the way. And the Kings, I think, was summed up perfectly. So if no one has any arguments with that, Zaylo, I'm going to throw it over to you for your divisions and your couple of stocks here.
So the division I want to be talking about is the Southwest Division. In this division, we have the Houston Rockets, Dallas Mavericks, San Antonio Spurs, Memphis Grizzlies, and the New Orleans Pelicans. I mean, a team I think everyone can see that I'm at least buying in are the Dallas Mavericks. You got a great point guard like Luka Doncic leading the way over there. You have your supporting cast of Derek Lively, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Kyrie Irving over there. Just all those pieces working together. That's just something you just can't doubt in that team in the Dallas Mavericks. Another team, honestly, I thought it was a sleeper the entire year that I want to be buying into. Houston Rockets. You had the two big free agent signings in Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks, which was very controversial. I mean, I would say it's big. Dillon Brooks, he's been overachieving this season, been doing very well for that team. Jalen Green, although his efficiency is not the best, has been scoring at a good rate. Jabari Smith Jr., he's taken a leap. We saw it in the Summer League. We saw that he did a lot better, and now it's working into the season. Team I would sell in that division, I mean, right now, I would say definitely a team everyone would sell. Memphis Grizzlies haven't lived up to the hype at all without Ja. We thought Desmond Bane might be able to get the job done, but the injuries have piled up on top of them, and it's just made the team deplete entirely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to hop in here real quick. And just at the Grizzlies take, I'm 100% agreeing with Zay here. I mean, this Grizzlies team is horrid without their star. They're 3-13 without John Moran. I truly believe last year was a fluke when Ja missed those games, that there was the stats that the Grizzlies were a better, more efficient team and won more games without Ja Morant. I 100% believe that's a fluke. Desmond Bane taking a massive step back this year. He hasn't looked like the same player that we've seen him be next to Ja Morant. And just some of these guys are just older than you think. Steven Adams obviously got injured very early in the season, so they're without their big man. And at that point, the only guy that you have in your roster is Jaren Jackson Jr., and he's not going to, drop 20 points a night. He's not an offensive player. He's just a defensive guy. So that I believe that's the Grizzlies' problem. They just have no scoring. And yeah, they have a young core, but they just don't have like a lot to build around it. And so I would 100% agree with Zay here and sell all my Grizzlies stock. Avery, were you going to say something over there?
No, I think he got it pretty spot on. Without Ja Morant, the Grizzlies are kind of how they were before they got Ja Morant, just the same boring team in Memphis, and they're not really that explosive, fun, charismatic team that we saw last year and the year before, just running the floor and flying all over the place. And they don't really seem to have that edge that they had last year. But I think Isaiah put it right on the nose. Just I'm selling too, to save my money for something else.
Yeah, and Zayla, I'll throw it right back to you. I believe you have one more division to talk about.
I do. Thank you, Giacomo. The Northwest Division. This one is made up of the Minnesota Timberwolves, Oklahoma City Thunder, Portland Trailblazers, Denver Nuggets, and the Utah Jazz. I know my friend Avery was talking about how he wanted to buy into the Denver Nuggets, quote-unquote, dynasty, as I would like to say. Definitely not a dynasty just yet, but a team that I think could be a dynasty later down the line, let's say 2026, 2027, the Oklahoma City Thunder. You have a true point guard there for the first time since a guy like Russell Westbrook, and his name being SGA. He's been getting it done the entire season, been averaging over 28 points per game. You have guys like Lou Dortz on that team. Definitely something that you want to see. And it's just a lot of young guys helping out each other, making each other grow better. Another team that is also young that I would definitely buy in are the Minnesota Timberwolves. You got it's finally been working for them. The chemistry is there. Anthony Edwards has been able to score extremely efficiently. Rudy Gobert has fallen into his role as a prime defensive player as he was in Utah, and Karl-Anthony Towns is able to score on the offensive side of the ball, and it's just been working for them. You got a guy like Troy McDaniels off the bench. He's been a key defensive player for this team.
Yeah, I have something to say real quick about Zalu's touch on OKC. I feel like he could be 100% accurate with his take here. The only real issue, probably the injuries. You think about last year with Chet being out for the whole season. He's big, he's 7 foot plus. He's sort of skinny, not that strong. He could easily get hurt very, very easily. So one of those players that I'm sort of a little bit worried on. SGA had a few injury problems, but it's just injuries that really, really scary about this OKC team. If they could get past that, if they could fight through it, they could easily be one of the best teams in the NBA. But I'm a bit hesitant on buying that stock just because of that.
Yeah, I mean, if we're just talking about pure future, OKC 100% the brightest in the league, obviously with what, as you said, if we're counting out all the injuries. But, they also have 16 million draft picks in the next 6 years. So got to take that into consideration, that they could still even draft more talent, which is crazy to say. But with that being said, Izzy Metal, I'll throw it to you for your couple of teams in your stocks that you're going to be buying and selling.
Yeah, so I'm going to hop over and touch a bit on the Atlantic Division, probably my favorite division. We have a lot of good teams: Boston, Brooklyn, New York, Philadelphia, and Toronto. I'm obviously, in my opinion, going to buy on Philadelphia stock. With James Harden gone, I feel like Tyrese Maxey's been a player that has just had so much more freedom on the ball, being that main point guard, being the facilitator, playing off of and past MVP Joel Embiid. He's has such a great season. Probably, I think he's a top 3 point guard right now in the NBA. With him and also Tobias Harris also putting in work. Kelly Oubre Jr., when he comes back from injury, he's going to be dropping 19, 20 points a game. And then Joel Embiid, don't really have to talk about him. DeAnthony Melton, really solid defensive player. I feel like this team is starting to click really, really well. We've seen them beat teams like Boston, projected to be number 2 seed. They can also probably at their best beat a team like Milwaukee. I feel like going all the way, it's probably a bit more tricky, but I'm definitely buying on this Philadelphia stock. I'm selling my stocks definitely in New York and Toronto. These two teams are just completely inconsistent. I don't know where they're going, in the next 2 years. I feel like Julius Randle, not the guy, not the star that New York needs. Same thing with Toronto. They have a lot of good players, but they don't have that star like they had with Kawhi Leonard back in 2019. They're not, and I don't think they're going to get that back because of the franchise. It's just two really, really inconsistent teams that I don't know what they're going to do exactly to fix their problems. It's weird to see those two teams, both of them around the 500 range. I don't see them going to get a championship, but at the same time, I don't see them dropping down to get a top 10 pick. It's a bit weird. I don't know exactly what to see from them.
All right. I have two major problems with he said. I'm going to say first,
Here we go.
no offense, I'm going to call you out on this. Kelly Oubre is not averaging 19 to 20 points per game in any universe in the NBA. I mean, let's be honest. Listen, he can be, a decent role player. He can give you a 14 on a good night, but he's not averaging 20 a game. Because, listen, Maxey, if you're talking about Maxey for sure, Kelly Oubre, he's not that good, let's be honest. Number two, I mean, with my Knicks, it's a little bit of a weird situation now. I'm not 100% upset with you selling the stock because there's a lot of uncertainty, but this team is good. Jalen Brunson is a legit star in this league. He's battle tested. He is the superstar on the Knicks. He's the best player on the Knicks, and I'll stand by that. Julius Randle's just not a good basketball player. He's not clutch. He doesn't play defense. I was at the Knicks game the other night. He was getting booed, which I believe, And this is my, I guess you could say, a little take here. This is me maybe having a little bit too much faith in James Dolan after, everything he did. I really hope that the Knicks trade Julius Randle. They got to get him out of New York. I was talking to many people about it. I think that if Julius Randle gets out of New York and the Knicks get, some kind of decent player or draft capital in return, I think the Knicks can be a very, very good team. Because it lets Jalen Brunson, step into that role. RJ Barrett gets more shots, which, I think he's 100% deserved this year. Been one of the best, most efficient shooters in the East so far. So I think that, if Randle can get out of New York, that I'm all in on the Knicks if they can get rid of Randle. But yeah, because he's still on the team, I think it's a little wavy on what we want to do with that Knicks stock.
All right, so going back to your first take about Kelly Oubre Jr., just throw a quick thing right there. Before injury, he averaged 17 points a game. That's close to 19-20. I feel like he could push for another 2-3 points every game. And also 16 points, that was, I'm pretty sure, the fourth best average of points in this Philadelphia team. That's how great of an offensive team they are. They flow so well around Joel Embiid, with him being that one big man that people are forced to double team. That's creating so much space for players like Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, and other players off the bench. And Kelly Oubre is one of those players. He could definitely be not a star, but probably one of the better role players in the league. And to touch on your Knicks team, you're 100% accurate on the Julius Randle take. I feel like he has to go in order to make this Knicks team better. Who are they going to trade for him? I don't know. It's just weird because I don't see a player that they could find Julius Randle on some picks around to get maybe Karl-Anthony Towns, maybe Donovan Mitchell, try to fight him again. But it's just odd, the situation that New York are in. And with a market that they have, they should be doing a lot better, but they aren't.
Don't disagree. Avery, I'll throw it to you. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I can see why, as they would take sell the Knicks in the next couple of years. They're not really still trying to figure things out. This team has always been, New York's team, but they've never really made it past that post Carmelo Anthony, and even then they weren't that great. I'm looking at Isaiah like I'm crazy, but that this Knicks team is a bit shaky. But I definitely see them many years down the road, like 6-7 years into the 2030s, being a legit contender in the East when they finally get their heads together and make good draft picks and make good trades and get rid of Julius Randle, who seems to be the problem and the loose wheel on this car. And if they can figure all these problems out and keep Jalen Brunson, keep Josh Hart, and keep all these important role players and let RJ Barrett and let him do his thing, get as many shots as he can, this Knicks team could be very dangerous later down the road. But in the next 2 to 3 years, I think they're going to stay in the same spot, which is a possible play-in team, maybe a 8 or 9 seed. I don't see them being a serious team in 2 or 3 years.
Zaylo, I'll throw it over to you.
I've heard so many egregious takes that I had to talk about so
Me
far.
too.
First, Isaiah, about 5 minutes ago, you said Kelly Oubre was scoring 19 points per game. He played 8 games. Of course,
he played 8 outstanding games, though. It was 8 really, really good games.
I could say Cam Thomas was scoring 40 points for 4 games. Does that make him amazing? No, and I'm a Nets fan. Avery, you said Carmelo Anthony's era was not that good.
Oh, it wasn't that good. Zay, I'm a Knicks fan.
No. Because didn't they go ahead and beat a great that was a team, that was a Boston Celtics team that just got off 2 years ago from winning the NBA championship in the finals. Then they went and put up a fight against a great Indiana Pacers team. They also put up a fight in the 2013 year when LeBron was doing amazing. They won 2 games against LeBron. Then they started depleting. They had that 2-3 year streak. That's something I have to talk about. Another thing, Avery, you were saying trade Julius Randle, things of that nature. You were saying 2030 will be their year. I believe this Knicks team. You were also saying they were a playing team. If they trade Julius Randle at the deadline, there's already a man lined up to come to this team and be a 1-2 threat with Jalen Brunson. His name is Donovan Mitchell, and he wants to come to New York. He wants to play with this team. If they get that 1-2 punch, point guard, shooting guard, the league is in trouble because those are 2 slashing guards ready to go at it at anyone. And I believe, I know I've been pretty mixed signals on the Knicks the entire show for every single episode. I'm officially buying into the New York Knicks hype. They are going to be a top 4 seed, maybe even top 3, to be honest. Yeah, that's a little bit pushing it. But
Definitely.
I think that after a trade with Julius Randle, a man who still thinks he's the primary ball handler from 2020, from that season when he had a great season, first year on the Knicks, he didn't take a backseat to Jalen Brunson. Now he needs to start either take a step back or get traded. Those are the only 2 things for him. And me, myself, I'm buying into the hype. I want to buy that stock right here, right now.
100%. You know, there's 2 things I want to touch on real quick with the Knicks. Number 1, Avery, the Knicks are way better than an 8 to 9 seed, even with Julius Randle on the roster. They're a top 5 seed in the East with him in the roster. I can confidently say that. I mean, this team is just legit. I mean, we were debating about it. I still think they're better than the Cavs. We beat a healthy Cavs team in the playoffs last year with pretty much the same roster. And Dante DiVincenzo is better than some of the guys we had off the bench last year. So not that he's a big impact, but we beat a healthy Cavs team last year in the playoffs. So I'll take that. But, you know, even if the Knicks don't get Donovan Mitchell, we just got to get Randle out of New York. He's such a ball hog, and he ruins and stunts the growth of some of these young guys. Like Emmanuel Quickly, I think could be one of the better players in the league if he was either starting or was able to take more shots. He already has a decent lease off the bench, but I think he's so legit, you know. RJ Barrett could be so much better if Julius Randle wasn't on the roster. So I would 100% buy on the Knicks as well, just praying that James Dolan can get Randle out of New York.
Well, all you guys are talking about, you know, New York, they have to trade Randle. Once they do that, their team is going to be really, really good and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Number 1, Randle, first of all, to Cleveland, it's not a good fit at all. You already have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, who are 2 amazing big men. I don't think Randle could fit well in Cleveland at all. I don't think the Cavaliers are going to like having Julius Randle on their team. They'd much rather prefer to have Donovan Mitchell. Even if he requested trade, I don't feel like going to New York would be the best fit for him. The only other option, I guess, he is Karl-Anthony Towns going to from Minnesota. And he's also balling out there. He's also having a really good season so far. Number 1 seed in the West, a really contested season, a really contested league right there. It's just really, really, really hard to see Julius Randle leaving New York for another really good player. The only thing I could see is a lot of picks and then some role players. But that's all. That's the best I can see for Julius Randle at this point, with how inconsistent he is. Drops 10 points and then probably 20 points a different game. He's a weird player. He doesn't really fit well in New York. I don't know where he's going to fit well. If he's going to be that secondary player or third best player on the team, it's really, really tricky to understand this New York team. I think they're going to have a similar sort of unlucky spur like the Kings, from the past how many years of them not having any good success in the season, not making the playoffs. I probably until late 2030s when this next team could actually shine, get some better talent from draft picks. But yeah, Randall's not that fit. I feel like they need a whole reset of a team in order for them to be somewhat decent.
That's got to be talked about. The Knicks do not need to reset this team at all, in my opinion. I mean, this is a very, very good Knicks team. I mean, listen, they're very good. They could have went to the Eastern Conference Final last year. I mean, they just ran into playoff Jimmy, but they had a couple of games up on him. I mean, this is a very good Knicks team. I'd honestly, and like you said, I would 100% trade Julius Randle for role players and picks. I just want him out in New York because I really want to see what this Knicks team can do without him. I think that this team is very, very good without him. That's just my point. So I really don't think that this team needs a full reset at all.
But Guac, in order to have a good contending team, you need to have some sort of star. Jalen Brunson isn't a star. Emmanuel Quickly isn't exactly a star yet. They need a star probably in the next few years, and to trade Julius Randle for a star, that's not really happening. I don't see it happening. You see all other teams in the league that are contending right now, they have really, really good players. Boston, Jason Tatum, Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, Dallas, Doncic, all these teams with at least one player that stands out really, really well. And the Knicks don't have that yet. They're not going to get it in the near future. In a long, long time. That's the only way I see New York getting a really key player that can help them actually win something.
So this is my last thing, and then we'll move on and we'll cut off this argument. But do you think Donovan Mitchell's a star?
I think he's a star, yeah.
Jalen Brunson, in his 2 playoff series that he's played on his own team where he's been either the first or second option, he outshined Donovan Mitchell in the first round and then played right around the same length as Jimmy Butler until around Game 5 with Jimmy.
No. Jimmy Butler was a different beast in the playoffs last season. You can't describe Jimmy Butler to any other player like that. Jimmy Butler was a dog last season.
He was very good, but if you watch that Knicks series, he started out very slow. Games 1 and 2, Jimmy Butler was irrelevant. It was Gabe Vincent who did most of the scoring, and Jimmy Butler took a backseat, which was very, very weird. But I'm just saying that Jalen Brunson is a legit star, and he really is. He's just an absolute goat. But I'm going to cut it off there for that, and I'm going to move on to my 2 stocks of my 2 divisions. So I'm going to start out with the Eastern in the Central, which is the Chicago Bulls, Cleveland Cavaliers, Detroit Pistons, Indiana Pacers, and Milwaukee Bucks. The first team I'm going to buy is the Indiana Pacers, obviously led by Tyrese Halliburton. Such a young core. I just love that the way that this team has, built up this roster. Andrew Nembhard stepping into a big role, traded for my guy, Obi Toppin from the Knicks, drafted Isaiah Wong and Juris Walker in the draft. I mean, this is just a very, very good young team. And Tyrese Halliburton just looks better and better and better each season, cementing themselves as one of the best point guards in the league, in my opinion. So I am all in on the Pacers hype. And from my sell team, I feel like this is really obvious. They're about to blow up the whole roster, and that's the Chicago Bulls. Zach LaVine probably the first to go. DeMar DeRozan probably not far after him. Really don't have a lot of young talent. I think that they whiffed on that Kobe White pick. Hasn't lived up to, the top 10 pick that they drafted him to be. Not a lot of good young talent on that Bulls roster, so I'd sell a lot of my stock for that. And then moving into the Southeast, that's the Atlanta Hawks, Charlotte Hornets, Miami Heat, Orlando Magic, and Washington Wizards. As of right now, the Orlando Magic are the 2nd seed in the East. They're very, very early for what was expected of them, and I'm buying all the stock of this Orlando Magic team. Jalen Suggs turning his career around right now. He's been one of the more important players on that Magic roster after he was being deemed a bust just a couple of seasons ago. He's been such an impactful player. Paolo Banchero obviously having that great season. He's a stud. Cole Anthony, has been awesome. Just this, and Franz Wagner too, man. This Magic team is very, very good for years to come. Now, do I think that they'll do a lot this year in the playoffs? Absolutely not. I think they're still very young and very inexperienced, but if I'm just talking straight up about a Magic stock, I'd 100% put a lot of coins in that. I'd buy into that. And then for the Charlotte Hornets, I'm going to sell everything that I have in that team. A good young team. LaMelo Ball now out for multiple weeks with the high ankle sprain. That's his second major injury in 2 years. He's supposed to be that star. He's a very good player when he's on the court, but I think he's a little overrated. I don't think he can lead a team to even a playoff berth. The best he can do is the play-in. And they don't have a lot of guys. Miles Bridges obviously was that compliment star for a little bit. But he's kind of taken a backseat as well. So I'm really not in so much on the Charlotte Hornets. So that's my take about those two. I mean, you guys want to go ahead.
Yeah, I have one thing to say, and I completely agree with your take on Charlotte. LaMelo Ball is definitely probably deep. I think he's the most overrated player in the league. A lot of analyzers are really, really hopping on, how good of a player this guy is. And I just don't see him being one of the star players, to help carry a Charlotte Hornets team to somewhere past the play-in. It's just really, really difficult without another secondary good player. I don't think Charlotte has that. It's just LaMelo Ball and himself. I don't feel like he can, carry this Charlotte team anywhere past the play-in. I feel like they're going to be stuck around 10, 11, 12 seeds for a few years to come until LaMelo probably hits his peak and becomes a really, really great offensive player. He already is really good. But I think he needs to up his defense. He has to be a bit more calm with the injuries. But maybe after somewhere around his peak, that's when they'll be doing somewhat decent. But I still don't see them getting probably anywhere higher than the 8 seed.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. And with nothing else to go, then I believe if no one else has anything else to say, we're going to move on to our next segment. We all good?
I didn't get my cells in. I mean, I'll just make it real quick so we can
go ahead.
get to the wheel. I'm out of the Northwest, which is the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the Thunder, Trailblazers, and the Jazz. I'm backing out of this Trailblazers team after losing Dame and just pretty much losing your whole franchise player and CJ McCollum and all those role players that supported Dame when they were in the playoffs in the late 2010s. They just don't really have anything. Like Jeremiah Grant and Malcolm Brogdon and DeAndre Ayton aren't going to win you anything in the near future. Now, further down the line, 10 years, 10 years, I can see them getting back to that playoff caliber team that we used to see when Dame was there and McCollum was there. But right now, I don't think they're going to be remotely close to what people believe they are. And going right back to the Pacific, the Lakers. I mean, there's not much to say. I don't want to say they're inconsistent. They have a pretty decent record at 10-8, but losing 44 points for the 76ers and an aging LeBron, who knows how long he's going to be there, and an inconsistent Anthony Davis. And sure, they got a bunch of young guys who look really well behind this AD LeBron setup, but I don't think in the next 2 to 3 years, I don't think they're a title contender, and especially with LeBron leading almost every category on offense. But down the line, definitely, I think the Lakers can return to that franchise dynasty Lakers teams we've seen in years past.
Yeah, I believe no one has any problems with that. So with that being said, we're going to move on to our segment. So we're about to get the wheel up in a second. We're going to start spinning that. So I'm going to explain how it works. So we're each going to be getting 2 teams. We'll start with Avery, go to Zaylu, Izzy Metal, and then myself. We're each going to get 2 teams. Bill's going to land on a team. We're just going to give, we'll say about a 30-second debrief about just what that team's been like. We'll talk about teams that have been really good, really bad, just a quick breakdown of our first impressions and how they've been. So we're going to start this wheel up right now and give it the first spin. Avery, you're going to be getting the first team here. Once again, just a little quick breakdown. You're going to have the San Antonio Spurs, an interesting
this is a good one.
Ooh, all right. So Spurs, number 1 overall pick in the draft. They got Victor Wembanyama, he's actually looked pretty good for the first couple games, averaging 19, almost 20 points a game. But I'm going to be honest, other than him, they're not looking great. They're 3-14. I think they're one of the bottom 5 teams in the West. They're not going to be very good this year or in the next couple of years. If we're going back to the stocks thing, I'll buy into them a little bit, but based on what I'm seeing right now, Victor Wembanyama is probably their next big time star after David Robinson and Tim Duncan. He's definitely the next big time star, but I don't see them winning a championship in like the next 5 years. But after they get a couple more role players, definitely. But based on this year, not looking too great, but definitely pretty bright future down the road.
All right, nice little chat there we had. So we're gonna back out of here. Zaylu, you're gonna be having the next team. Once again, just same thing, just a quick low breakdown. You got the Chicago Bulls.
All right. The Chicago Bulls, I mean, honestly, just an easy team to talk about. I mean, Zach LaVine's on his way out right now. DeMar DeRozan depleting right now. Obviously, the injuries have gotten to him. The draft picks have not been the best. I think their best one in the past couple of years has been Pat Williams. I mean, just a team that they're not clicking anymore. When they made those signings, it was just a lot of anticipation, but over the years, we saw they couldn't work together. They couldn't, basically they just couldn't work together as a team. And unfortunately, they've depleted and haven't been as good as they were in past years.
It's definitely Chicago Bulls, like I said, my sell team, not a very bright future for them. I'm going to just start depleting over and over again. Izzy Metal, you got Zaylu's Brooklyn Nets. Go on ahead.
This should be fun.
The Brooklyn Nets. What a team. Another inconsistent NBA team. I'm sorry. It just is, the Nets, they're 8-8. They're literally 500. They have 8 wins and 8 losses. You can't describe a system more than that in a record. And then players, Mikal Bridges is good, Cam Thomas is good, Nick Claxton is good. But it's just not enough to, beat the big time teams. It's just another weird team similar to like their neighbors in New York. It's just something's not right in terms of what their plan is for the future. I don't know what they're going to do, after trading Kyrie and Kevin Durant. When they had that big three, with James Harden, I thought that they could have been an actual Warriors like dynasty, but it didn't happen like that. They were forced to trade away all 3 of those players. It just went downhill after that. Right now, they're okay. They're a play-in team, I believe, at best. But, again, you don't have a star player. The closest thing you have is Mikal Bridges, but it's just I'm just iffy about this Brooklyn team.
Yeah, definitely a more interesting look into, a team that kind of mid, I'm going to be honest. But I'm going to take, the Cleveland Cavaliers here. Obviously, after the playoffs last year, hate this team. My Knicks beat them. But, this Cavs team is still a very, very good young team. One of the teams that has a lot of upside. I want to talk about Evan Mobley a little bit. He's just one of the better young players, averaging 17 a game. He's taken that step up that I feel like we've all been waiting for out of him. Donovan Mitchell, obviously, in the driver's seat with that team. But, this Cavs team, to me, they're very good. They're a top 5 seed in the East for sure. But still a lot of uncertainty. Aging Jared Allen, I'm not a huge fan of him. But they do have young guard play. So I'm like, again, I feel like I'm just in the middle with them. They're 9-8, right? Hovering right around 500. So I'm not too upbeat about this Cavs team, but I'm not down the dumps about them. A lot of potential as well. So I'll stay a little bit neutral on them. Not too heavy feelings either way. So now we make it back to the top. Avery, you're going to be getting your second team here after each went through once. You're going to talk about the Dallas Mavericks.
All right. Dallas Mavericks, I'm going to be honest, I haven't really watched many of their games, but judging based off what Luka Doncic is doing, I'd say they're looking pretty good at 10-6. Luka's having another 30-point per game season. The one thing that does concern me, though, is he is leading most of the offensive categories and steals, but Kyrie Irving is just picking up whatever Luka's not getting with 24.4 a game. And this team, not like last year, they're not tanking. This team is looking to win a title again. And they could be, as I can see them right now, top 4 team in the West. No question. No question behind Denver, Phoenix and whoever falls into that 3 seed, maybe the Kings or somebody else.
Yeah,
But
real
this
quick
Mavericks-
before go ahead. Real quick before we move on to Zalo, I just want to back you up real quick with a couple of stats. Tim Hardaway Jr. averaging 18 points per game. He's taking a major step up for this Mavericks team, as well as Derek Lively, almost 10 points per game. The rookie out of Duke has been awesome for that Mavericks team. They're in my opinion, they're looking up.
Yeah, definitely. And Grant Williams, even with 10 points per game, just being a force on the defensive end, maybe not as much as he was in Boston, but this team is a well-rounded team, and I think they could be very tough to beat later in the playoffs, especially with a lot of playoff experience with Luka and Kyrie and Grant Williams, who, like Kyrie, went to the finals. But this could be a very fun team to watch later in the year as playoff time comes around.
100%. Zayla, we're going to be getting back to you with your next team, the Los Angeles Clippers. Wow, I feel like it's a very interesting team to talk about.
One word: overrated. I mean,
Yes.
to me, extremely overrated. In the beginning of the season, they thought the problem was Russell Westbrook. They put him on the bench. They put in James Harden for him. What happened? Immediately went straight into the ground right after. I mean, this team can't do anything. Sorry, they can do something. They lose a lot. That's the thing, they do a lot. But this Clippers team, it's just lots of inconsistent people. You can see it. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook, James Harden. It's two ball heavy guards, a man who doesn't really like to play as a team, and Kawhi Leonard, who's trying to do it all by himself. It's just an absolute dumpster fire of a team right now to myself.
Yeah, I'm gonna back you up on that. I say like their top 4 big name players: Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. You look back in years prior, James Harden needs the ball in his hand. Kawhi Leonard doesn't really need the ball in his hand, but when he wants it, he wants it. Paul George needs the ball in his hand. Russell Westbrook needs the ball in his hand to be successful. This team is a very selfish team that just needs the ball in their hand to actually produce something good on the offensive end. Now, defense, Kawhi Leonard takes it as their best defensive player, even though he's trying to pretty much be the whole team himself. But I absolutely agree with you. It's the most overrated team in the NBA. They're not. It's the Clippers. Like, what more do you want from them?
Yeah. And with that being said, I 100% agree with you guys there. Izzy Metal, I'm going to throw it to you for your second team here, which is going to be, oh, wow, the shoe fits. Your own Philadelphia 76ers.
So you obviously know what I'm going to say about this team. They're just balling. They're really just balling right now. It's a team that clicking perfectly. Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, 2 biggest stars right now. I feel like with James Harden leaving that team, it's sort of freed up a lot of space for Tyrese Maxey to have the ball to facilitate, to be that main guard, like I said before. And then Joel Embiid, I don't need to talk about Joel Embiid. I feel like he's going to win MVP again this season. I think he's the best player in the league right now, currently. He's just a brilliant, brilliant big man. And the depth around them, too, I talked about Kelly Oubre, Anthony Melton, Tobias Harris, even off the bench, the trade that they got, Nicholas Batum, Margie Morris, like all of these players, they're all working together for a goal under a Nick Nurse, who we've seen win a championship with Toronto. I feel like this Philadelphia team is clicking. It's just, I feel like I don't think they're going to win a championship this year. It'll be pretty close. I feel like they can make it to the finals at their best, but it's difficult in terms of playoff position, how Joel Embiid is going to do, how Tyrese Maxey is going to click. But I feel like this team is probably one of a top 3, top 2 team in the East.
Yeah, man. A little too inconsistent for me. Obviously, a very good team. That's going to take us into my second round pick. We're going to do one more round. I think after this, we'll go into a third round. But we just got them, so we're going to remove them from the wheel. I would have said a little bit harsher stuff about the 76ers, not be as biased. But the Portland Trail Blazers, wow. I'm going to be like Isaiah here, one word, dumpster fire. I mean, really not a whole lot of future in this team. The one thing I do want to say, though, before I talk about how bad this team is, I want to point out the one positive. And in my opinion, that's Shaedon Sharpe. I mean, this guy, I think he's one of the most overlooked players in the league, averaging 17 points per game. he's really good. I think he can be a very, very good young player. I think he can, step up in big ways for the Blazers. But as a whole, Zalu mentioned they don't really have a number one guy. Or sorry, Avery mentioned they don't have a number one guy. Jeremy Grant isn't really that guy. DeAndre Ayton is a basket case. Who knows what you're going to get out of him night to night. So really not a lot working for the Trailblazers, not a lot to look forward to. But I'm a big Shaedon Sharpe guy going forward. I think that he is just going to be an awesome player moving forward. That'll take us into our third round. We're going to go one more each, having a lot of fun here, just with some, some quick facts about some different teams. Avery, your third team, the Los Angeles Lakers.
All right, this was one of the teams that I was selling my stock to somebody else. I mean, I'm going to do what Isaiah does. One word, inconsistent. This team, 10-8, probably in the next, looking at their upcoming schedule against against Detroit, Oklahoma City, and Houston, probably going to win maybe 2, maybe 1. Who knows? They might win all 3. They might win none of them. We don't know. It all depends on if AD plays well or if LeBron James plays well. Anthony Davis, I think his highest scoring game this year is like 32 or 34. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but this man is the most inconsistent player I've ever seen, and that attributes to the rest of their team. I mean, and he's a game time decision against the Pistons too. Just looking at all the stats, this team inconsistent. You never know what you're going to get. You might get a dynasty championship caliber team, or you might get the worst team in the league. You never know. Like, based off how they start the season, championship caliber team. How they finish, probably not going to be a championship caliber team. It all depends if LeBron stays healthy, AD actually plays, and everybody else kind of follows suit. So, one word, inconsistent.
100%. We're all sticking with those one-word answers here, which I feel like is pretty good. Just summing up a couple of these teams. Zaylo, you're going to have your final team be the Atlanta Hawks, another Eastern Conference team.
I mean, to me, this is a team that I can actually see shocking a lot of people down the line. Trae Young is an extremely good player when he wants to. When he wants to be an extremely good player. He can come off the dribble. He can come off high ball screens. He can get the ball to his teammates. It's just been great to see what he can do. DeJounte Murray has been honestly, to me, a very good 1-2 punch for him. Clint Capella has been getting it down low. And a guy, honestly, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about him. Jalen Johnson, he's taken a big step up from last season. We saw him at Duke. We saw what he could do at Duke. And now for Atlanta, he's doing exactly what he wants to do. This Atlanta Hawks team is going to surprise a lot of people later down the line.
I don't know. I'm a little shaky on that Hawks team, not for sure. DeJounte Murray had a rough night the other night, but for sure they do have some of that star power that they need. Izzy Meadow, your third and final team, the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, I talked about this team a little bit in my stocks, how I say I was going to sell them, and I still believe I'm going to sell them. They're just not a really, really big star player. I feel like you need to contest, anywhere in the playoffs. Their best player, I believe, is Pascal Siakam, and he's not, I think he's probably the best at a second option. Like in 2019 behind Kawhi, when he had more space, he was excellent, really excellent. And now I feel like they could grow around Scotty as, really good defensive player. I feel like he could do a little bit more of a push offensively in order to make this Toronto team a much better team. They're just, like what Avery, Zay Lou, like everyone's saying about many teams right now, inconsistent. But I feel like this inconsistent thing could be fixed really, really easily. Just probably around the picks that happen the next few years, any trades that could probably go their way. Positively, I feel like this team has nowhere but up to go. It's just depending on how soon and in what way will they do that.
Yeah, losing for Van Vliet, obviously not one of the best things for that Raptors team as a whole. Pascal Siakam been very good at flashes, but hasn't looked like that number one star, like you said. My last team, I actually talked about the Cavs, so I don't know why we're getting repeats here left and right. But the Houston Rockets, man, that's a really tough team for me. Obviously, Dylan Brooks has been awesome early, but I don't think he can keep up that consistency. I'm not a big believer in Jalen Green either. I mean, Dylan Brooks averaging 14 a game on great efficiency, about 65% from the field. He's been very good, but Jalen Green's still very inconsistent. He's a very ball dominant guard, and he just hasn't done it for me. He doesn't really look good. The one thing I do want to say is Alperen Sengun, once again, he's very underrated now. I think this is the second year where he's been good. I really am looking for him to take a big step up this year. And if he does, the Rockets get another legit player in the draft this year because I think they'll be one of the lower seeds. I think they could be good in about 2 years. I think that Izzy said it just right now about the Raptors. The only distance for the Rockets to go right now is up. They can't go any lower at the bottom of the West. So I think with a little bit of rebuilding, maybe get rid of Jalen Green or fix some of his shooting problems and take the ball from him a little bit more. I think that can be very good for that Rockets team, but for sure a very decent future. But that is going to do it for our wheel there. Each of us got 3 teams. But before I end it, Zaylu wanted to throw out one last thing before we cut it out.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls watching from home, I'm sorry. It's going to be a massacre on Isaiah real quick. Isaiah, I mean, your first take, it was just, I'm going to take a word from my favorite broadcaster ever, Stephen A. Smith. It was blasphemous.
Blasphemous.
Yes, it was blasphemous.
All right, let me know.
The Nets, I mean, the record does not show everything.
I think the record shows a lot, wins and losses. I feel that's exactly what the record does. Shows how a team is doing. And it's just mid. It's mid at best. They're 8-8. They have not as many wins as they have losses. Not as many losses as they have wins. They don't have exactly a star player yet. Ben Simmons, I don't know what is happening with this guy. It's just a team that isn't starting off so well, as good as a lot of people projected. I feel like they're a playing team at best. That's my opinion. I feel like there's a lot of teams in the East right now that are better, like significantly better than the Nets.
Isaiah, I'm sorry. The Brooklyn Nets started out, I believe, 3-2. They should have been 4-1 because in that Mavericks game, the only reason they lost was because Luka Doncic decided to hit a wild 3 at the end. If you take in consideration of the margin of the loss, it was by less than 6 points. And considering the injuries that they had in these games, it's just bringing even more firepower to this team. This Brooklyn Nets team has had Cam Thomas injured. They've had Lonnie Walker injured for a little bit. Nick Claxton, their starting center, injured. The guys who have stepped up now are starting to step into their role. Day'Ron Sharpe, Lonnie Walker, Spencer Dinwiddie has been amazing, scoring over 20 points in his last game. If you watch this team into the middle of the season, I'm telling you, at least 4 people on this team are going to be scoring over 20 points. And I will tell you exactly who it is.
Who? Let me know.
Mikal Bridges, Cam Thomas, Lonnie Walker, Spencer Dinwiddie.
Wow. Taking a page out of my book. He can't open up the door. Oh, there goes the door.
and he's done. But
listen, I'm gonna say one thing. I really don't have a preference here. Lonnie Walker, 20 points per game sounds a little bit crazy to me. That's all I'm gonna say. But Avery, I'll throw it right back to you, man.
I'm just gonna bounce off what Isaiah said. Record doesn't show everything. If you look at I'll use the Lakers example. They're 10-8. So we know what this Lakers team, Lakers team fluctuates, and we know how good they really are. If they're gonna play a legit game, we know how good they really are. Record doesn't show everything. The Nets record, they're 8-8, but everyone in this room pretty much, or in this call pretty much knows that they are far better than just a 500 team. And I know Izzy feels differently, but I'm going to use my own team. Go and say it right now, really quick. They're 7-9, but everyone knows they're very good when everyone's healthy and no one gets ejected for putting somebody in a chokehold, and everyone's playing at the top of their game, and they're on suspensions, and none of that mess of hay or whatever. This team, championship caliber team, no question, because they have a very good core. The Nets, same thing. They're not a 500 team, they're not. I wouldn't say they're a top 2 team in the East, but they are 100% on my top 4 list in the East because they just have this exciting young core that can pretty much do everything behind Cam Thomas and Mikal Bridges. Like,
Just to
I
be
don't-
sure, we're talking about the Nets, right? The
Yeah.
Nets.
Yeah.
You're saying that they're top 4 team in the East.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You say they're top 4 team in the East?
Yeah,
I could name 4 teams. I could definitely name 4 teams better than the Nets.
I
Please go
can
ahead.
as well.
I can name 5, 6. I could keep going to 8. Probably 8 teams better than the Nets right now.
I don't know about 8. I can.
I'm stopping right there.
I
You said
can
right
name-
now.
He said it, right? He said that
You said right
the
now,
Nets
though.
are better than a 500 team. They're supposed to be, but they're not. That's the problem. It's not how it's supposed to happen. It's what's actually happening. And the record is showing that because they're 8-8, they're inconsistent. They have had, as Zaylu talking about that game against Dallas, it was a close game, but it's a bunch of Luka Doncic excellence that you weren't able to defend. So is it fully the Nets' fault for that loss? No, but you can't just take all the blame and put it on how great of a player Luka Doncic is. It's this. I don't know. They're not definitely not top 4. I think they're probably 7, 8 seed. I could definitely name 4, 5, 6 teams that are better. If you want me
Real
to,
quick.
I will. I just don't agree with the stakes.
Real quick, because I'm very, very neutral on this. I don't really have a big opinion, but I will 100% confidently say there are at least 4 teams better than the Nets. I'll name them right now. The Boston Celtics, New York Knicks, Philadelphia 76ers, and Milwaukee Bucks are all
Okay.
100%
Stop with the
better.
Knicks
They are
stuff.
100. The Knicks are better than the Nets, and that's a
No,
fact.
they're
They're
not.
100%
They're the
better.
Knicks.
That's a good take.
What? The Knicks are 100% better. Fine. If you didn't even want the Knicks, the Cavs are better too. There you go.
Okay.
The Cavs
That's
are better
good.
too. That's I don't get why it's flipping out. That's complete bias. That's gonna do it. No, that's gonna do it for our St. Joe Sports Show.
We're gonna have to call, otherwise Isaiah's gonna go crazy.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I really don't think. I think that's a little bit of reach. I'm pretty neutral, but I
Talking
don't
about the Knicks over here, man.
Knicks,
I think
baby.
Knicks are better
But
than
that
gonna
is going
win
to do
the
it for us
championship,
on
yeah,
St. Joe
right.
Sports Show episode 4. Once again, I'm Jock McCrally, joined here by Avery Stats, Zaylo, and Izzy Metal. Thank you for watching. Follow us on TikTok at St. Joe Sports Shows, and we will see you next week for the next episode. Thank you.